Well, hello and welcome to another edition of Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham, where it says everything healthcare. I'm your host, Shawn Needham, and I am streaming live from the Moses Lake Professional Pharmacy studio today. Actually, I'm streaming from my office, and super excited to be doing that. This is kind of an impromptu episode, and I wanted to update you on a few things, including making sure that you know about our 300th episode coming up in next week, Friday. Janet and I will be in Arkansas, and we will be with Dr. Amy Beard. She's a functional medicine doctor and has been on our podcast at least twice that I remember. And I'm super excited to meet her in person. And we are going to be discussing nature therapy and the importance of nature therapy. A lot of things out there, most natural things, they were created for us to enjoy. And we'll talk about that today with our topic of vitamin supplements. And it's important that we use those things appropriately. So you don't want to miss out. It's going to be 9 a.m. Central Time, Arkansas time. So it'll be 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time next Friday. So you don't want to miss out on that. So we'll be discussing nature therapy. So today, what am I discussing? I am discussing about vitamin supplementation. Get this question a lot. What vitamins should I take? Are they worthy? Is it worth it? And one thing I like to say is, per definition, a supplement, a vitamin or mineral supplement, it's just that. It's a supplement. It's meant to supplement a good, healthy diet and lifestyle already. So you're not going to supplement your way out of a bad diet. Let me give you a good example. I had a friend one time who was a heavy alcohol drinker, and he said that he was in the clear because he took milk thistle to protect his liver. Well, it's just not quite that simple. It's important that if you really are worried about protecting your liver, you just need to not drink alcohol. Don't think that milk thistle is going to magically fix you. So, and as we talk about on this podcast multiple times, and I want to hit that home today, is there are really largely three things that we can do to be healthy. And that's exercise, our diet, and sleep. And of those three, this is a surprise to most people. Usually people get them backwards. Usually they think exercise is the most important. But exercise is the least important. And I myself, I exercise quite often and love it. There is no better antidepressant than exercise, period. There's none ever invented. So speaking of nature therapy, speaking of things that were invented for us, exercise movement was invented for us. There's not some magic SSRI, antidepressant that's going to be better than exercise, period. I'm not saying antidepressants aren't sometimes needed, but long-term, I just don't think so. Exercise is the best way to prevent depression, or even if you're feeling bad at the time, just move. So exercise is the least important. Why do I say that? We don't have to exercise to live, right? We could sit on the couch and be sedentary all day, and we would stay alive. That's pretty obvious. That doesn't mean we're going to be healthy, but we could stay alive. We need to eat to live. We can't live without food. So, food is very important, more important than exercise. But the most important is sleep. We will die without sleep before we'll die without food. Our bodies are created wonderfully, and they are created to be very resilient, and they are created to be wonderful storage of energy, and we store that energy mostly as fat. So most of us can live without food for 3 weeks. Now, not without water, only 3 days without water, but without food for 3 weeks. Yes, it wouldn't be very fun. Although if you ever tried fasting, after about 2 days, after about 48 hours, you don't get hungry anymore. So that's a mechanism of our body has created, and it decreases your insulin response, your insulin level, and high insulin levels is what creates us to be hungry. And many times in our standard American diet, we have really high insulin levels because we're eating so much processed food, so much carbs. That's why you're chronically hungry. If you really want to fix that problem, eat meat, I strongly recommend the carnivore diet. Although modified, I think we're omnivores. I don't think we're pure carnivores. I think we're created to eat plants and fruits also, but I do think probably in a moderation, and there's good plants and bad plants, and everybody is different. So you got to find out what works for you. But in general, most people eat too many carbs. And if you eat satisfying food, satiating food like steak, like beef, it's hard to overeat it, and it's not that difficult to eat one meal a day if you eat that in that manner, and that'll definitely raise your insulin levels, which puts you at risk for metabolic disease. High insulin does, and diabetes. So the food that was created for us to eat, that's a form of nature therapy already. And sleep. We will actually die without sleep after about 3 days. We go into psychosis and can die. So it's a horrible, miserable way. Sleep trumps everything. Our body does not get stronger when we exercise. Our body does not get stronger when we eat. Our body gets stronger when we sleep, period. So in that order. So I talk about food and how important food is, and if it doesn't rot, don't eat it. So, in general, eat good food. And when do you need a supplement? Well, if you're not eating appropriately, which most people don't, but there again, you can't eat your way out of a bad diet. So there's certain disease states, and if you have certain diseases, whether it be HPA axis dysfunction, which is also known as maybe adrenal fatigue or adrenal dysfunction, you might have to take some kind of special supplement for a while to fix your adrenals. Or if you have certain disease processes like GI problems, there's certain supplements you might have to take to get rid of those GI problems. But in general, eating a good healthy diet, you don't need to take a lot of supplements. And they're just that. They're to supplement a good healthy diet. So of importance of in supplements, if I was going to risk them, like most important, I think vitamin D trumps them all, I believe. Vitamin D is made normally in our skin in response to sunlight, UV rays. Yes, sunlight is good. I know we're taught that it's bad and it causes skin cancer. And there's arguments on both sides of that. I think moderation is key in most things, but the more sunlight you get, also the more your skin is protected. So, and there's some thoughts that sunscreen has actually been linked. Certain sunscreens with PABAs have been linked to skin cancer, actually. But what do we do when we go outside? We're told to cover up so we don't sunburn, we don't get skin cancer. We're told to use sunscreen. And that stops the production of vitamin D. So most all of us, even if we're outside, especially in northern latitudes, like where I'm at in Washington, we need extra vitamin D, because in northern latitudes, the sun doesn't hit us directly. The way it comes down, it doesn't hit us directly, so we don't get the response from UV rays like we would if we lived in the equator. So vitamin D, how much vitamin D? 5,000 to 10,000 units a day. I recommend that. Usually puts most people in an optimal range. It's pretty easy to get your vitamin D checked, and realize too that vitamin D is a fat-soluble hormone. It is a hormone. It's actually got a cholesterol backbone, just like a sex hormone does. So that's why it does so much. It's more than just building bone. It helps for seasonal affective disorder or depression. There's been many things to show that it helps our immune system to fight off infections, to fight off cancer. People that have low vitamin D levels are associated with poor immune health. So vitamin D trumps them all. It helps to support your thyroid function. So that's probably one of the most important, I believe. And without good gut health, we can't absorb our vitamin D. So if you don't have good gut health, we can't absorb our nutrients from our food or our supplements. So gut health is very, very important. That being said, many Americans are on what's called a PPI, proton pump inhibitor. Prevacid, Prilosec are the first two that come to mind. If you are on those medications, they decrease your stomach acid production, and they will decrease your absorption of many minerals, including calcium, including vitamin D, including magnesium, and you might be depleted of those. So that's a whole other topic, but I don't believe in those drugs being used long-term. If you have a GI type problem, like reflux, you need to fix your diet. You don't need a medication long term. And our stomachs were created to be acidic to prevent bad things from growing, bad bacteria, and to prevent and to break down our nutrients so we can absorb our food or absorb the nutrients from our food. So having a non-acidic stomach is not a good thing. So vitamin D, the second one I would say is probably a good multivitamin, multi-mineral. If it's just for good general health. And a US RDA 100% one a day, they're garbage. There's not enough nutrients in those to do much. Don't believe in the US RDA. The US RDA was a number that was made up post World War II to help 50% of the people in studies get healthy. So for instance, scurvy. We all know that scurvy is caused by lack of vitamin C. And the way they did the 60 milligrams of vitamin C is the USRDA is they depleted vitamin C from post World War II. The military was people that were in the military, they were needing work. So the federal government used them as guinea pigs to test them to make up a USRDA number for vitamins and minerals. And the number they got for vitamin C was 60 milligrams, which we all know that we probably need at least 500 milligrams a day of vitamin C. And they would deplete them of vitamin C until they got scurvy. And then they would replete them with enough vitamin C until 50% of them got healthy and didn't have scurvy anymore. And that number was 60 milligrams. Well, I don't know about you, but I don't want to just prevent scurvy. I want to prevent, oxidative stress from other diseases, cancer and things like that. So a higher dose of vitamin C would be more important. So don't believe that one a day US RDA 100% is pretty much garbage. So good multi-mineral, good multivitamin. And then another one that's important, I think, is omega-3s. Omega-3 fatty acids, they're in every cell in the body. We need them for, every function in the body, every cell. Omega-3s can help normalize cholesterol, prevent cardiovascular problems, help for brain health. Make sure that your omega-3 has, the appropriate levels of, it's just not fish oil. Make sure that you have the appropriate levels of not just omega-3, but EPA and DHA, which is the active ingredients in omega-3. That's the third one. Fourth one, I would say probiotic. And it's hard to rate these. Vitamin D is definitely number one, but probiotic could be number two, especially if you've had GI problems in the past. Probiotics, the good bacteria that should be in our intestinal lining. If we don't have those good bacteria in our intestinal lining, we can't absorb our nutrients from our food or our supplements anyway. So probiotics might be very important, or might be a number. They are very important, but it might be a number two. And those good bacteria help to break down vitamins and minerals so they can be absorbed, help to prevent bad things from growing. Make sure in a probiotic you get a very potent strand. I believe in at least 20 billion CFUs, colony-forming units of the good bacteria. I also think you should look into if they have just bacteria, make sure they have non-pathogenic yeast. Also, the one I recommend has Saccharomyces boulardii, which is a non-pathogenic yeast, which helps prevent bad bacteria from growing. In fact, there's been studies done with Saccharomyces boulardii to show how it decreases C. difficile, which is a very, very difficult bacteria to treat. And we don't even have a lot of antibiotics that can treat it. But this non-pathogenic yeast has been shown since 1970s to actually treat C. difficile, Clostridium difficile. The fourth one, let's see, that's orthobiotic. The vitamin D, mineral, vitamin D, multivitamin, multi-mineral, or omega-3s, and then probiotics. Those are the top four I would recommend as far as just good overall supplements to take to prevent any kind of health problems. There are some those that you can get in just one pack. So you don't have to buy multiple bottles. You can just take one pack every morning. Um, let's talk about, I talk about supplements are just that, to supplement a good, healthy diet. And I will tell you that in pharmacy school, in medical school, we're not taught that supplements are very worthy. We're taught that, they don't work very well and they're not something that we should recommend. And I think one thing that you'll commonly hear is that they create expensive urine. So, if you take a good B vitamin, which I believe in a multivitamin, you should have good B vitamins. And those good B vitamins are methylcobalamin, not cyanocobalamin, the cheaper form of B12, but methylcobalamin, because many of us have MTHFR, methyltetrahydrofolate reductase problems where we can't methylate. So taking a methyl B12 is a good idea, methylcobalamin. Also, the B6 should be L-methylfolate instead of just folic acid. There again, it's a methyl donor. It's a better form of folic acid. So, and those B vitamins are water soluble. Most vitamins are water soluble, besides A, D, E, and K. And of course, with D, we were taught that, don't take too much vitamin D because it's fat soluble. It stays in your body. You can get problems from it, and that was largely over talked about. So we were told that you need 400 units of vitamin D in pharmacy school. Well, largely that's been turned around, and we know we need 5,000 to 10,000 units. So I'm glad that that's getting turned around. But the whole thing on vitamins making expensive urine, here's my comeback to that. Yes, most vitamins are water soluble, so you do urinate them out. And if you've been on a B vitamin, you can smell B vitamins in your urine. Does that mean they're not working? This is my question as a pharmacist, or my comeback when a doctor says, they're just, vitamins just make expensive urine. I'm like, well, penicillin, pretty much everybody knows about penicillin. Penicillin's 100% renally eliminated. We call it renally eliminated because it's eliminated from the kidneys. So in the urine, penicillin is 100% renally eliminated, but yet it works to treat infection. So just because something is eliminated in the urine doesn't mean it didn't work in the tissue already. And we don't always know those mechanisms of how that works in the tissue before it gets eliminated. But don't buy the fact that you just pee out all your B vitamins, so it's kind of worthless. Yeah, think about the penicillin analogy. Most antibiotics, I wouldn't say most, but a majority of antibiotics, maybe even most, are really eliminated, but yet we know they work. So, don't buy that. That just makes expensive urine. So, as always, I want you to comment, give me any questions. We appreciate it. We appreciate you for listening and following Health Solutions. Our podcast is ever growing, and we are booking into, I think, February now. And it's just an overwhelming response of how we are educating and empowering individuals to take charge of their own health. So I thank you, the listener and the viewer, for tuning in and following us, and catch us on all those platforms. So the Mosaic Professional Pharmacy Facebook page, my personal Twitter site, my personal LinkedIn site, and the Mosaic Professional Pharmacy YouTube site. On our YouTube site, we edit all these videos and put shorts on there. We have over 1,300 educational videos on our YouTube site. Everything from sleep to exercise to diet to hormones. So, and many other things in between. Everything healthcare. That's what we do here. So thank you for tuning in today. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions, as always, please comment or reach out. Thank you for listening to Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham. Thank you.